Hello, I'm Larry Lee with another Trade Talk update. Mark Upton joins us now from Central Life Sciences. Tell us a little bit about Central Life Sciences. What do you do there?
Well, so Central Life Sciences is actually owned by a company called Central Garden and Pet. And basically what we do as a company as a whole is help to kill or control insects. That could be bed bugs, that could be fire ants, that could be varroa mites on honeybees, stored grain products or insects in stored grain products. So a lot of different products to help prevent or control insects. The division that I work in, we're specifically trying to control flies on livestock.
And you do that with a feed additive, I understand.
That's correct. We actually have two feed additives. One is called Alticid, and it would be directed toward pastured cattle. It's very, very effective on horn flies, and horn fly is the main issue with pastured cattle. And then the other product is called Clarifly, and we're targeting that towards confinement animals. When you put animals in confinement, you have a lot of other type flies other than just the horn fly, and so we're using Clarifly in that arena.
Now, someone once told me that horn flies cost beef producers, for example, a lot of money. You probably know more about that.
You know, Larry, it's hard to believe, but there are a lot of issues, a lot of challenges in the beef business. We've got coccidiosis and worms and lots of different problems. But the reality is, you're right. The horn fly is the largest single economic threat to pastured cattle in North America. It's said to be over $1 billion in terms of economic losses every year just related to horn flies. They're a huge problem.
Sounds like a problem that if you have a solution, it's going to pay for itself to go ahead and get that solution. And you have that product.
Well, we really do. You know, so many producers out there just choose to ignore the horn fly issue, and I guess it's easy to ignore in terms of just closing your eyes to it. But it's just robbing you of profits. The cows are miserable. It really affects them negatively in many ways, and so you know we would ask producers to do something to prevent horn flies on their cows. We feel like we've got the best product or the product of choice. We feel like it's the most economical. We feel like it's the most effective. When you start talking about controlling insects, resistance is a real issue, and we don't have that problem either. So we think we've got the best product on the market. We just need producers to realize it's a problem and take advantage of it.
So let's take that product. It deals with the horn flies. Are there other pests the same product handles?
Are there other pests that this product will handle?
Yes.
Yes, so the active ingredient in Alticid is methoprene. As a company, we use methoprene for several things. We use it to treat grain as it's going into storage to prevent stored grain pests. We use it in fire ant control. We use it for mosquito control. A lot of mosquito abatement districts use methoprene to help control mosquitoes. In the arena that I'm in, and for flies themselves, it will, if a fly will come to the manure where the Alticid is or the methoprene is, you will help to get control. But the horn fly is the only fly that only comes to the manure. And that's why it's so effective on that horn fly. And the horn fly is the biggest problem for these pastured cattle anyway, so they just fit hand in hand.
As far as return on that investment, what's it cost to, say, treat 100 animals, and how fast do you see that come back?
Well, so the cost to treat, it's going to cost you pennies per head per day. So somewhere around 2.5 to 3 cents per head per day. Now, as far as per cow per season, it depends on where you live. The further north you go, the fewer days of flies that you have, and the further south you go, the more fly days that you'll have. It's going to cost you in about a 180 to 210 day fly season. It's going to cost you somewhere around $4.50, maybe $5 to feed Alticid. Where if you're using, for example, insecticidal ear tags, it's going to cost you close to twice that, and they're not going to last the whole season. So it's very economical. In terms of how fast you're going to start seeing that return, within about 48 hours after you feed Alticid to the animal, they're going to start depositing it into the manure. So we're just feeding it to the animal so that they can mix it up and put it out in manure. About 2 days after you start feeding it, they will be laying it down in the manure. So when that adult fly comes and lays eggs in the manure, it's going to prevent those eggs from becoming a mature adult. From the time you start feeding it until you start seeing a reduction in fly numbers, it's going to take you 14 to 21 days because you've got to let the adults die off and then prevent those new ones from hatching.
Sounds like a pretty effective way to do it without a whole lot of money.
You know, it is very economical, and as far as the product itself goes, and then you don't have all the labor and the stress on the animals. I mean, it's no doubt it's a lot of stress to try to bring animals up and put something in their ear or spray something on the back. And we have some of those products as well in our arsenal, but this is just such a great product. You don't have to worry about rotating it because of resistance. It's a really neat product. Larry, I live in South Central Oklahoma. I have a herd of cows of my own. I grew up on a large ranch. We've used this product for years and years and years. It's really, really effective and works great on this beast of a pest called hornflies.
What about the consumer that might be concerned about what we're feeding the animals? The product, passes through the animal, ends up in the manure, has no effect on the food or the milk, right?
That's absolutely correct. Methoprene, the EPA won't let us use the word safe, but methoprene is harmless. In laboratory settings, you can't feed enough methoprene to anything to kill it. Now bovine are the only livestock species on the label, but it's just because we haven't done the testing on others. I mentioned to you that we use it on the grain side as well. There's no withdrawal in meat or milk. It can be used in grain that's going on for human food production. There's absolutely no ill effects with methoprene.
Do you also have a product for swine operations?
We do. That product is called Clarifly. So I mentioned a while ago we're using Clarifly in confined operations. We actually have with the Clarifly label, we have bovine, swine, equine, sheep, and goats. It's a really cool product, a really stable chemistry. And yes, to answer your question, we are using that in swine operations as well.
If anyone wants to find out more about the products, who should they call? Where should they go on the web?
Best way to get in touch with us, we've got AlticidIGR.com. We've got a website for Clarifly, but to get them all kind of together is centralflycontrol.com.
Is there anything you'd like to add today?
Oh, I would just like to say, as I mentioned earlier, flies are a huge problem. The sooner a producer realizes that, the better off they are. There's just no reason to let those flies be robbing profits off the backs of these animals. We can spend a few pennies and put dollars in our pocket. We think that's the best way to go.
Mark Upton with Central Life Sciences joining us here at Trade Talk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.